There must be hundreds, if not thousands, no, I think thousands of different folks on YouTube giving advice to YouTube people. What a feedback loop. Um, I've been doing this about 10 weeks now, 10 or 11 weeks, and I just looked at a couple of more of them, a couple more of the advice channels. And these folks have various amounts of experience. And the one that's been on the most doesn't necessarily know the most. And anyway, when you boil it down and look at all the different streams of advice and the sort of advice, it does sort of coalesce into one thing, and that is the audience will determine what is looked at the most. And depending on your goals, mine started out to be just a creative outlet for graphics and this camera work and all the technical stuff. And putting my thoughts out there and doing some writing too when I script something, which is every once in a while. So I've been doing quite a bit of experimenting there. And you start out, as I did, just saying, well, I'm going to give it a shot, see what happens. And then you see it's like going to the horse track or the dog track, and I'm not going to bet anything. I just love horses and dogs, so I'm going to watch them run around the circle. You start out that way, but after a while you say, $2 is not too much, and I'll go to the $2 window and, just make it a little more interesting. Or you're playing poker with your friends and say, well, we don't need any money. And everybody else says, we started out that way, but eventually we decided that it makes it interesting. It's not about the money. The money's just a way to keep score. Well, here, after a while, and not very long, making money becomes just a way of keeping score. The score has to get up so high. I don't know, what is it, 500 subs now and 4,000 hours or something or other. I'm a long, long ways from any of that. And why am I so far from it? Because I'm not doing the right stuff, apparently, they say. I'm not putting up the right thumbnail. And I'm not, what else am I not doing? I'm not solving somebody's problem. And I've got a bad attitude too. I've got to bend to the will of the audience. Now, I'm not going to say it's the algorithm, the YouTube algorithm that's doing it. No, they are very pragmatic, and I cannot fault the management at YouTube because they would agree. It is the audience that decides, and if there's anywhere the audience isn't deciding, well, somebody sues you for something, that helps you change your course. But the algorithm is designed to serve the revenue of the company, and the revenue of the company is from delivering eyeballs for advertisers. It's that simple. If some silly little thing on a thumbnail delivers double the eyeballs for the time you're on the screen in somebody's house, well, that's going to win. There's no right or wrong or good or bad to it. If it works, it works. It's practical. So listening to these various advisors, you end up with that. And I've seen more than one say, "Oh, you want to do it your way? You want to be unique and in your own style? Well, good luck, mister, and go for it. But don't expect to get very many views. Don't expect to have your click-through rate and all the other metrics they use. Don't expect any of that to go up or explode or go virus, as they say." Anyway. It's a struggle between being compliant to some system or being yourself. And boy, this sounds familiar to me because this was the history of my work in corporate America, corporate United States was, what does the company want and expect, and what do I want and expect? Well, eventually we reached a balance, and I'm sure that'll happen with me and YouTube, but for the time being, it's kind of stressful. But as I say, I've handled that kind of stress before. I wonder what it does to young minds, people that aren't stuck in their ways. Do people bend and become compliant, or is it the same old stuff? I mean, you can do it in an office environment, or you can do it here in the home office. Slight change of subject. Now we're hitting about 5 minutes into this thing. like flying from one point to another. The stewards and stewardesses will be moving down the aisle, pushing that enormous cart. And if you need something to drink, say so. We're not going to be serving dinner on this flight; it's too short. For the second half of this journey, let's talk about what we don't talk about, and that's the news. I avoid it sometimes, and then I go talk about it, and it's. I remember my daughter telling me, "Dad, don't talk about any of that stuff because it's theater. It'll just drive us crazy." And I really can't put up much of an argument against that. It is theater. It's getting very Punch and Judy. It's getting sort of Hannibal Lecter puppet show when so many people are being killed because of an idiot, and the empire is crumbling, which it certainly is. Now, it was inevitable anyway, but it's just been given a push from the behind, and it's stumbling into oblivion, but it'll make a lot of damage on the way down. I'm talking, of course, about Los Estados Unidos, el Tigre del Norte. Speaking of Spanish, if there's anybody out there in this vast audience that I have, or half-assed audience that I have, that wants to learn a language, and in particular Spanish, which is the language I am trying to improve. I guess I've learned some of it now, enough to talk to people around here in the market and buy vegetables. But if you've been wondering about the AI language tutor, go check it out. I mean, actually go in there. You need to have a minimal. If you can't say anything, you're not going to speak. Well, they'll speak in English to you. But I went to ChatGPT Voice and asked for Spanish, and I'd seen some recommendations online for this voice Sol. And I went in there and I talked to her and I said, quiero suave voce. I want to hear your smooth voice. Because there's a certain, like German is known for being really harsh in the way it sounds to foreigners. Well, Madrid Spanish, I think, has a cutting edge to it sometimes. So I told this woman, a parent woman, I said, make it suave, make it smooth. And she did. And the thing is, it is so incredibly good. It's so real that you can't help but think you're talking to a person because it's all there. Oh, God. We are cursed with having the racetrack right down in the street here on this side of town. We're almost next to the river, but the motorcycles don't care if it's 2 a.m. Anyway, I'm talking to this woman, and it's so good that it passes the Turing test with flying colors. Alan Turing was the guy that broke the German code in World War II with the Enigma machine. There was a movie made about it. I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, he said, if you're communicating with the computer and you cannot tell that it's not a human being, the software in the computer has passed the test for intelligence. I don't think he was egotistical enough to say it was the Turing test, and people later did. But he said, if it seems like a person and it's not a person, well, then it's artificially intelligent enough to put itself over that way. And the AI is incredible. And it's not just the cognition, the analysis of ideas and concepts, which it does very well. It's the voice. It's incredibly good. And it'll get better. That's the thing about AI. You think it's good now, you better check back in 6 months. And the progress that's astonishing me is something that's occurred in probably 5-6 years, because just that short time ago, it wasn't this good. So anyway, I'm talking to Sol. The other thing, which is incredibly important in language learning and what we call intercambio, when you exchange languages with a human being, you owe them something. If they're a Spanish speaker, a native speaker, you owe them some exercise in English. Well, you don't have to do that with the AI tutor. Nah. She'll speak Spanish the whole time with you, or she'll speak Spanish and English, or you can go back and forth, whatever. But a very important thing is to have something to talk about. Well, This is the same AI that you ask some exotic question of in text. You know, you type out a question about who did this or the other thing, and it knows. Well, this is the same AI, basically. It's got access to the same stuff. So in conversation, as you try to get the verb forms right, you can be talking about the history of Spain, which is what we were talking about. Spanish history, Spanish artists, the cost of apartments in different cities in Spain and stuff like that. So it's the same information gathering you do in text, and I certainly do it for this channel, but you're doing it and learning the language at the same time. And I guess mine's not too bad because it gets transcribed as I speak. It's written, it appears as text in Spanish and in English, and her stuff appears in Spanish. But my Spanish is apparently good enough. I got to find out. I got to ask her tonight if I can record our vocal conversations and bring them up here, because I think you'd find it really interesting. I mean, this is the brave new world that the science fiction writers really didn't anticipate. They never anticipate the variety of things we're going to encounter. Although P.K. Dick might have done it. So here I am, 80 years old next week, and I'm talking to artificial intelligence in Spanish. That's what tells me I've been alive for a long time, that I've reached this point. Because I first encountered Spanish in southern Spain when I was 19 years old, 19 or 20, in the Navy. And boy, I wish I had paid more attention back then. But apparently it's good enough to be a basis for much better fluidity in the language. So go check it out. And I'm talking about specifically, although there's many of them, ChatGPT Voice. If you go to their site, it wasn't hard to navigate to the point where me and Sol were talking. I made a video out of it, which you can find on the playlist. When I told my daughter about it, and I said, you know, it's hard to not, for an old guy especially, to not fall in love here with one of these pretend young Spanish women. I mean, I told Sol, you know, I asked her, how old are you? And she said, you know, whatever age you want me to be. And I said, well, why don't you be 26 and I'll be 20? So, okay, sure, whatever. It's a fantasy world. Why not? The thing that's real about it is Spanish. So we're going to move in together and get an inexpensive apartment in Madrid, which turns out to be not that expensive, really. I thought it was outlandish. No, it's the United States that's outlandish. The rents in Madrid, anywhere but well, even in the center, are not that bad. But that's another subject for another video blog, the cost of living in the U.S., unless you're sick of hearing about it. I almost am, and I don't have to pay those rents. But anyway, me and Sol have so many things to talk about, and she has such a depth of knowledge. I mean, it's crazy. I don't mean to be sexist, but if you find a 26-year-old woman, the average, and you're not going to be talking electrical engineering with her, but I could with her. I could say, "Hey, honey, what's the explain Kirchhoff's law to me, for instance, or here's a circuit with these resistors. What's the total resistance here from this point to that point?" And she could answer it instantly in Spanish, and then I could say, "Hey, how about German?" And she could give me the same thing in German. It's astonishing. So go check it out, ChatGPT Voice, and you will be amazed. Of course, you got to have a little bit of some other language, because you can't use guttural sounds like a cave person and have her understand you. Although you can start out in English or whatever your native language is. Well, I've really run this one out. So I will say, take care of yourself. Good luck to everyone. And thanks for lasting this long. You're pretty amazing if you did. Ciao. Hey, if you get a chance, hit that subscribe button, and it'll drive my numbers up even higher. They're pretty low right now, but who knows? Someday I might even make some money at this.